Bigfoot, Dogman, Jersey Devil, and others. Are they real? Misidentifications? Or the most cleverly disregarded reality of all time? Come into the cabin and sit down and let's try to find out together. Hey guys, welcome back to the cabin. I'm Robbie.
I'm Norman.
Damn it, I'm still Johnny.
Yeah. Still haven't come up with a new one yet.
He ain't changed timelines yet.
He hadn't skipped over to his other timeline.
My name was always Jimmy.
Well, Jimmy, how you doing today?
I'm wide open.
I can tell. Norm, how are you?
I feel wonderful.
Do you feel as good as Jimmy over there?
I don't know about that.
I think Jimmy feels better than anybody right now.
Probably.
We don't know how Johnny feels, but Jimmy feels good.
Yep.
So what we got today, Norm?
How about the famous or infamous Bermuda Triangle?
We kind of mentioned that last show. So we're going to actually do a show on the Bermuda Triangle, huh?
I thought it would be a neat one. It's an interesting topic.
Yeah,
it's
very interesting.
It's even in the history books. Did you know Christopher Columbus had an encounter in the Bermuda Triangle?
I don't know. I don't think I did.
Yep. While coming across to discover that trade route to India, he spent a couple days stuck in the Bermuda Triangle.
That's not in the song.
Nope. There was no wind going, no nothing,
And the compasses wouldn't work.
compasses wouldn't work, still seas. And then they started seeing lights at night that weren't supposed to be there because they were flying around in the skies. And there was another thing that happened. I can't exactly put my fingernail on what it was, but after this encounter, the winds picked up and he found his way to the New World.
Wasn't there a fog? A fog or something moved in.
I don't remember, to be honest.
I kept thinking there was a fog. That's just the way they described it at that point. But
I remember the movie Fog.
nah.
But I can't remember that part. But yeah, Christopher Columbus, probably the first person to mention anything about the Bermuda Triangle.
So how did the Bermuda Triangle get its name? Do we know that?
I'm not exactly sure.
Well, it encompasses the area of Bermuda.
Well,
And it's shaped in a triangle.
All right.
so we're going with Occam's razor on this. The simplest answer is
Yeah.
probably the correct answer.
It goes from Bermuda. It goes from Miami to Bermuda, down to Puerto Rico, back to Bermuda. Back to Miami.
No, there's a little higher up north. There's an island a little higher up north. I can't think of the name
Isn't
of it.
that Bermuda? Bermuda's the upper right corner of it, I think.
Is it? I thought there was one higher than that. Oh, well. Let's talk about the most famous incident in the Bermuda Triangle. Do you know anybody here know what it is?
I know it's famous for ships and planes and things like that going missing, but
Flight 19. December 19th. December 5th, 1945. 5 Martin PBM five General Motors torpedo bombers were flying a training mission into the Bermuda Triangle. And they were supposed to fly a routine flight, bomb a small shipwreck near this island that they use for a bombing range, make a few turns, and then fly on back to Airbase Miami. Well, apparently during the flight, they started having troubles, and they radioed in that they're having difficulties with their navigational equipment. Their compasses weren't working. They were reporting the water was starting to look different. The skies were looking different, and then it started going crazy. They said everything was totally off. The horizon wasn't where it was supposed to be. People started panicking, and they lost track of them. So the Navy went and launched a huge rescue mission. And in this rescue mission, they had these huge flying boats. I don't know if you've ever seen a PBY. Mm-hmm. Well, one of these things was called a Martin PBM Mariner Flying Boat. This thing was huge. There were like 20 guys on it. This thing even disappeared looking for them. No, just Totally disappeared off the radar. No oil slick, no nothing. Now, there is something that was said that this PBM could have exploded because someone said they reported seeing a flash, and the PBMs were noted for gasoline fumes or aviation fumes occasionally building up, and one spark and they went kabooey.
Well, it's a possibility, I guess.
It's a possibility.
But there's nothing found to corroborate that,
Nothing
right?
was found to corroborate that. Now, in this flight, there was the pilot that was leading this was a lieutenant with no real experience in open water navigation. And the guy that had the experience wasn't allowed to lead. So there was apparently some friction before the flight and may have went over into the flight. Now, some rumors say that they actually disappeared. Some say due to navigational issues that they may have actually flew over into, of all places, into some swamps into Georgia and crashed in Georgia, and then everything was hushed up.
I think I've heard that one.
Yeah. So, that was a big hush up. And another object is that there were survivors found, but their mental state was broken. And they were silently put away in mental facilities, not to be heard from again, because whatever they encountered over the ocean broke their minds.
Wow.
So
It's a mystery that has not been solved to this day. They have found some TBM bombers out there in the ocean. They've pulled the engines out, checked the cowlings, serial numbers. Still nothing to this day. Nobody's, to my knowledge, has checked Georgia swamps yet.
So this isn't like something that's, there are actually planes and ships that are in that area that have gone down. So this is substantiated.
Yes, this is the most famous because it was a military.
But of the planes that have been pulled out of there, what you're saying is none of them match up to that flight.
None
None
to this date. There have been reported civilian, over the years, civilian craft have disappeared and not been found. But then there's been civilian craft that have gone down that have been found. So you've got, say, your modern day boating. An example, a fisherman, it was a Catholic priest and a friend went off 1 mile off the shore of Miami Beach. And they had engine trouble. They called the Coast Guard for help. 1 mile off the coast of Miami. The Coast Guard could not find them.
Wow.
They disappeared.
That's disconcerting.
No wreckage, no nothing. And this was a Roman Catholic priest. So was it a prank? Or did they actually disappear? Now, accordingly, they actually disappeared. There's been other people that have gone off on day trips and never been heard of again. There's been some passenger aircraft back during the 50s that have disappeared.
Yeah. And this is not something that's, like out in the middle of the ocean. And this is like close to the continental United States of America.
Yes, very. Another famous disappearance. Just before the First World War, the USS Cyclops, it was called a colloyer, and it was carrying magnesium ore, which is used in the manufacture of ammunition. Nice thing about magnesium ore, if it makes contact with water, it makes the water very fluorescent. This ship even disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle in supposedly perfect weather, and it has never, ever been found since. They've never found no wreckage. They've never received a mayday. Never seen nothing. And this is a freaking huge butt of a ship. Now, there is a conspiracy theory on this. The captain apparently was a German who came to America through San Francisco, Americanized his name, and then worked his way up through the ranks of the Merchant Marine and got a job on this ship as the captain, as well as having many German sailors working for him. This is before World War I. Germany needed supplies to make ammunition. So the conspiracy theory is
it was just
they just sort
stole or whatever the nautical term for that would be.
Pirated the ship, because there's
Shanghai,
talks about
that's it.
they had a lot more food and fuel than they needed for their trip, and that it just made its way up towards Germany, offload it, and then they just dismantled the ship.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense if you're looking in one area towards the Bermuda Triangle and it's up around Germany, you're probably not going to find it.
The other thought was that it wasn't because they weren't at war yet, that maybe a World War I German submarine might have sank it.
It's possible. German U-boats were...
But we weren't at war yet, neither was Europe, but...
I have heard that the German U-boat army was sinking ships before we were officially at war.
True.
They were sinking, civilian and military ships before the actual call to arms, so to speak. Which wouldn't surprise me, especially World War I.
Oh yeah, that's sometimes friendly fire accidents.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't you say you knew something about an incident that happened down there in Bermuda Triangle?
Well, I had boys that I went to school with had like 3 or 4 of their dads got together. They were taking off, and it's about a 2 or 3 day trip. Shoot over to Bermuda, hang out. You fish on the way there. You fish on the way back. Really big fish off the continental shelf there, and they never came back. It was either 4 or 5 boys and men, and it wasn't dope related. You could think back in the early 80s, there was a lot of cocaine and stuff coming into Miami and all that, but these were all stand-up guys, and they just disappeared off the face of the earth. And growing up in Florida, I mean, talking about the Bermuda Triangle is just like talking about Clemson football around here. I mean, everybody talks about it. Nobody fears it. You just respect it.
It's a fact of life.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
A force of nature, I guess.
Okay, force of nature.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good way to classify it.
Let me ask you this, Jerry Robbie. Do you ever hear of a time tunnel?
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on them?
Well, I think, was it last episode we were talking about that movie, The Final Countdown?
Mm-hmm.
I would think that's probably what something like that would be.
All right. Here's something that happened, I think it was in the 80s. Johnny and I were talking about this. A Cessna pilot was flying back from Nassau. And I think it's like an hour trip, 2 hour trip?
It's over an hour and a half.
Hour and a half trip, okay. And this pilot...
As long as it's not a 3-hour tour, we're talking about...
Yeah, no Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
No ginger.
Well, say it's an hour and a half trip, okay? The pilot was flying back from Nassau and ran into some strange clouds. And he ran into a funnel effect. He ran into some buffeting, static electricity, some St. Elmo's fire racing along the plane. And Johnny, you're familiar with it. It took him, 5-10 minutes to fly through this funnel or something like that?
It wasn't very long, but his instrumentation was off, but he just kind of held the course.
Yeah, he just seat of the pants flying.
Mm-hmm. Dead reckoning.
And then when he come out of the tunnel, he was right over Miami. When originally he was just not too far out from Nassau, now he's already over Miami. When he landed, he was 45 minutes ahead of time and had over half his fuel.
Wow.
Left. When he should have been almost on fumes.
So he jumped forward. No, not forward.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess he would have gone forward. That's weird.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He went forward a time.
And he never tried to make a dime off of his story. He wasn't like a glory hound or looking for a movie deal.
He's wrote a book, or I think he wrote a book on his experience. I forget the name of the book.
But it was years and years later. It wasn't.
Yeah. And he's talked about this experience, about the, I think he called it time funnel or something.
I never read the book.
I didn't read the book. I mean, but I remember him mentioning it a couple times in some documentaries I've seen, that where he talked about the time funnel. And Bermuda Triangle is famous for what famous lost city?
Atlantis?
Exactly. Now, just the other day, I read an article about off the coast of Cuba in the Gulf of Mexico, a exploration team has found, get this, drum roll, pyramids underwater.
Really?
Really. They're off the west coast of Cuba, a small sunken, I guess you say city, of multiple pyramids that are similar in shape to the Aztec pyramids.
So
And
the
they're on a
step pyramids.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, and they're on a straight line to Mexico.
I wonder how they compare to those. Maybe it's a different subject, but the pyramids underneath off the coast of Japan.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out.
Find out the depth, the latitude, the longitude, maybe a little quinky dink.
Yeah. Japan.
I wonder if those coincide with ley lines like we talked about before.
It's possible. I mean, it wouldn't be. It don't mean much. There's probably 10 degrees, 15 degrees of difference.
It ain't much.
If you look at it ley lines wise, but just that article I just read, and this is the second time they went out there, and I've seen the pictures of what the first set looks like. I'm like, OMG, this is interesting. And you've heard of the road, the Bimini Road.
Mm-hmm.
There's sayings that there's something under there. I'm getting to be a very more firm believer every more and more every day.
Yeah, you definitely need to Google Maps the Bimini Road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's
it's
interesting.
like the name of the show. What's really out there? We don't know, but
I mean, there's a lot of activity in Bermuda. I mean, it could be metaphysical, could be leftover civilization. Some people put it as extraterrestrial. Some may say it's UFO bases are there, and
it seems like a lot of things. Not just what we're talking about tonight. Cryptid sightings, things like these discoveries of these pyramids, UFO sightings. A lot of this stuff is just it's on the rise,
right.
And I've heard people say, "Well, it's more mainstream now." I don't think it's just that. I don't think it's just more mainstream. It is. We've talked about that before, and I think that's a very valid point. But I think it's on the rise because it's,
The veil's thinning.
Yeah. You've said it several times, Johnny, and I think that's a very, very good way to put it. That hairy edge of sanity that was always way back beyond the fog is closer now.
Yes.
Well, guys, this was a good one. We always talk about going down a rabbit hole, but this is one that it links you to all kinds of different things. You wouldn't think the Bermuda Triangle would link you to time travel, things like that, but obviously it does.
Yes.
So, but, well, Johnny, you got anything? In closing,
I can't wait till next week.
it's gonna be a good one.
Maybe I won't be rushed. I can be here on time.
We won't start without you. All right, Norm.
Yep.
Wanna
Join
thank-
us on our Facebook group that we just recently started. It is What's Really Out There. And if you have questions, you can reach out to any of the admins or mods. If you have a problem and you need some help, reach out to the admins or mods. You need somebody to talk to, reach out to us there, or your short story to tell. You can reach us there as well.
Yeah. And we also still have the email up, what's really out there 2022 at gmail.com. What's really out there 2022 at gmail.com. And like he said, Norm's just got our Facebook group up. Check that out. Look at it. We got some pictures from our most recent field investigation up. We got some other things in the works. So go check us out on Facebook. Send us an email. But other than that, Johnny, Norm, we'll see you guys next time in the cabin.
See you next time.
I'll be here.
See you guys.
See ya.